In the last section, we tried making use of that volume switch on Docker run, but we very quickly saw an error message appear in the terminal. So let me tell you about exactly what occurred. So like we just said, when we make use of that volume command, we're essentially setting up a mapping between a file or folder inside the Docker container and a file or folder on the local folder system on your machine. The issue here is that when we set up that binding or that volume, we said take everything. Let's go look at the diagram one more time. Right here, we essentially said take everything inside of our present working directory and map it up to the app folder inside of our container. The issue with that is that inside of our current directory right here, you'll notice that we do not presently have a node modules folder. So when we try to take everything inside of here and map it into that app folder, well, we don't have a node modules folder, which is where all of our dependencies exist. So the node modules folder inside the container essentially got overwritten. We had a node modules folder over there. We can kind of imagine that it was right here. But when we set up that mapping, we said, hey, you know what? Anytime you try to reference node modules, just go ahead and try to look at the copy of node modules that is back inside of the front end folder. And as you very well know, we just deleted that folder a moment ago. And so we get this reference that points back to essentially nothing on the local operating system. Now there's a very easy fix to this. All we have to do is pass in an additional -v flag, and as the only argument or the only folder path on there, we'll say app node modules. Notice how in this case we did not put in a colon right there, right? No colon on the first one. When we use the colon syntax, we're trying to say that we want to map up a folder inside the container to a folder outside the container. When we do not use the colon and we just list a folder inside the container, we're essentially saying we want this to be a placeholder for the folder that is inside the container. Don't try to map it up against anything. So you can imagine that by putting in -v app node modules right here, we're saying this folder set in stone, don't try to mess with it, don't try to map it up against anything else. Let's try running our docker run command again, but we're going to add on this -v for app node modules. And hopefully we're going to see that everything works as expected. So I'm going to go back over to my terminal. I'm going to do an up arrow on my terminal to get the most recent command. And then I'm going to go back before the first -v, and I'll add on -v /app/node modules, like so. So now I'm going to run this, and we're going to very quickly see that our project starts up as expected. So starting the development server, and there we go, running on port 3000. So again, the trick here was recognizing that when we use the -v flag, we're essentially trying to say anytime that the container tries to access something in the app directory, it's going to reach back out of the container to the current or the present working directory on our local machine. That was a big issue because we did not want to somehow overwrite access to the node modules that we had already installed into our container. So we should now be able to go back over to our browser, go to localhost 3000, refresh the page, and we'll see hi there appear. Now here's where things get really interesting. If I go into my code editor again and open up the src directory and find the app.js file, we can now make a change to this. So I'll say by there. I'll save the file, and then if I flip back over, you'll notice that the text gets automatically reflected on the screen. If you don't see that automatic change, you should be able to refresh the page manually and see the new text appear. Now, just to be clear, when the text refreshes here automatically, that's a function of create React app. So that's just how React works. It will automatically refresh changes. But in order to get those automatic refreshes going, the React server needs to see the changes to the files that we are making. And so clearly by setting up this volume, any changes that we make to our local file system essentially get propagated into our container, the running container. The React server inside that running container sees the change and it updates the page. So that's pretty much it. We've now got a solution that's going to recognize changes that we're making to our files and folders inside of our project directory and propagate them inside the container. So this is definitely an important step forward. Let's take a quick pause right here and continue in the next section.